Hello everybody, it is July 4th, 2026 here in the United States of America. I'm going to make a video for my car today because my studio is just too damn hot. We are in the last official day of the heat dome where it's been close to 100 degrees every single day. Unfortunately, because of the way my house is designed, I have 3 separate air conditioners cooling my house. If I turn all 3 on at the same time, I'll actually trip the breaker. So the air conditioner in the office needs to remain off while the other 2 are on. So I can actually use the other 2 and don't have to go and reset the breaker. So the studio is a little hot today. So I figured I would just make a video from my car instead of sitting there sweating in front of the camera. But anyways, I just wanted to say, happy 250th birthday to the United States of America. I'm just going to do a short video today kind of about that and sort of just about the United States. We are a very young civilization compared to all of our peers. Russia is almost 1,000 years old. China is several thousand years old. Iran is several thousand years old. There's always been some iteration of that country, whether it's the Persians, the Parthians, the Persians again. The Iranian regime, you have Great Britain, England, whose history dates back hundreds and hundreds of years. You have old Europe. Those countries are all hundreds of years old, if not older. And the inheritors, who we inherit much of our civilization from, the Roman Empire, that lasted, Roman civilization lasted in one form or another from, I believe, around 700 BC to 1453 AD. So that's a very, very long time. And I feel like the United States is still in our diapers, so to speak. We're still in our infancy, and we have a lot of teething issues and problems still at this young age. But it's a very unique country to live in. I think many people outside the United States don't really appreciate just the uniqueness of the United States. We are essentially 50 semi-independent nation states all held together under a constitution, supposed to be a mutual agreement. Like, if there's an issue and some of the states don't feel represented. Hypothetically, in the early days of the United States, it was understood that they could voluntarily opt out of the Union. That's really not possible. In this day and age, we did fight a civil war over that. So states aren't quite as independent as they used to be, but it's very interesting. Each state has a governor, a legislature, a judiciary, basically a miniaturized version of the federal government. Each state has its own national guard. Each state is essentially like a small independent country unto itself. And the United States is massive. I mean, each country within the U.S. is about the same size. Each state in the U.S., many of them are roughly about the same size as like your average European country. I live in Ohio, not the biggest state in the Union. I think we have the 7th most populous state, I believe, or maybe the 7th largest economy in the U.S. I'm not entirely sure. It's not the biggest state, but it's not the smallest state. But still, it takes 5 hours of continuous driving to drive from one side to the other. If I were to drive to South Carolina, that is a 10.5-hour drive. If I were to drive to California, you're talking an entire day nonstop, 24 hours or more. If I were to drive to Florida, you're looking at an 18-hour continuous drive. If I were to fly from one end of the country to the other, you're talking about a 2.5-3-hour flight. This place is enormous. I live in a region called Appalachia. We have rolling hills. Further south, it's mountainous. It's very heavily forested. It's got a pretty variable climate. Summer temperatures reach up to 90 to 100 degrees. During the winter, it might drop into the negatives. It'll average in the 20s and 30s. We can get quite a bit of snowfall. It's very beautiful in the summer. It's very green, luscious, fairly wet most of the year. Lots of different wild animals. Very, very, very beautiful place to live. I actually love Appalachia and wouldn't want to live anywhere else within the U.S. But then, you go down south and it's borderline tropical. You go to the southern tip of Florida, it basically is tropical. You go out west, you have deserts, you have badlands, you got the Pacific Northwest. You know, you got massive pine forests everywhere. You go to the southeast, you have deserts. You know, the rolling plains or the flat plains of the Midwest. It's a very unique place to live, and it has, you know, almost every climate you can imagine. Like if you go to Alaska and you go to the northern parts of Alaska, you're at a you know, basically a polar climate. You know, you go to Hawaii and it's tropical. It's in the middle of the Pacific Ocean on, you know, a volcanic island chain. It's a really amazing place to live. And, you know, people from other countries often give us grief for not leaving this country and visiting other places. I would like to do so in the future. I have a list of places I would like to visit, but there are so many different things to see here, so many different places to go and different environments to visit, and, you know, different historical places to see. That, I mean, you could spend your entire life trying to go to each of every 50, you know, each one of the 50 states that compose the United States, and it would take years and years and years to do it and actually get to see things. So there's a lot to see here before we, you know, decide to travel to other places. And also, I mean, just the different landscapes. You know, we have warm tropical beaches in the south. You know, we have Glacier National Park out west. You know, glaciers, mountains. You have the Rocky Mountains. You have Denali in Alaska. You have, you know, the Grand Canyon. You have the deserts of the Southwest. You know, you have the beautiful views of California and the Pacific Northwest. I mean, there's just so many different things to see here, and our history is very deep. It's very rich, even in our, you know, brief 250 years of existence. Just it's been a very eventful 250 years here, just with our you know, the founding of the 13 colonies, our, you know, our war for independence. The growing pains of trying to, you know, form a functioning republic, you know, the American Civil War, our involvement in the Mexican-American War, the Spanish-American War, our expansion to become basically a continental empire, you know, our involvement in World War I and II, you know, and when we essentially overtook the British Empire at the end of World War II and became the global hegemon. You know, for better or worse, that's, you know, essentially what we are now. You know, it's a very interesting time to live in, and a very interesting country to live in, you know, within the history of human civilization. And, you know, for all our faults and our problems, and, you know, how dysfunctional this country can be, and our, you know, frustratingly inept leadership that we seem to have just all across the board, you know, I still love living here. I think it's a fantastic country. I think the people here are great. I would love if other people, you know, could come here and appreciate that and visit, and really see America for what it is, not what it's portrayed as in the news, but to actually visit America and see what it's really like. And it's very funny to watch these blog videos of Europeans that come here and visit, and they're actually shocked by what life in America is really like, compared to what they were told it was like. So, you know, I think America still has some time left on the clock. I think we're going to be around for a bit. You know, for how dysfunctional Rome was, it did last for quite some time, and I think the American experiment isn't over yet. I think we have some pretty, you know, serious improvements that we can make, but I think that if we play our cards right, and you know, we really keep in our minds that this is like something that we should preserve, this great project we have inherited, I think we should, you know, take care of it and do our best to, you know, keep the wheels turning, so to speak. And I think if we all really appreciate what we have and what we've built, and we, you know, kind of get away from this mindset of ripping it down and replacing it with something else, you know, I think America does have a bright future, you know, despite, again, our issues with our, you know, foreign policy and domestic problems. You know, I think there's still plenty of time to right the ship. But it's really all I wanted to talk about in this video today. Again, happy 4th of July to everybody. Happy 250th birthday to the United States. I'm going to be celebrating it today with some family. Going to my wife's parents' house, you know, my in-laws' house, and then back to my parents' house at the end of the day to go swimming and watch some fireworks. So everyone out there, stay safe and have a fantastic 4th of July. And I will be back Monday or Tuesday with another video. Later.